Hey everyone, this is going to be the last Astrius video going up before Astrius goes up. Yeah, you guys are almost there. Almost time. Time to have fun and try and get the new year. But before you do that, we should probably talk about building the unit. Because some people are asking, hey Umbra, why do you do the things that you do with Astrius? And before we get too far into this, I'm not a rune expert. I'm not overly adapting my runes. I've been saving a lot of runes up for the last little while. I've really only done 3 full rune builds. And they were pretty, back at the beginning of the year when I had a lot of motivation. And since then, my motivation to do runes has definitely been weighing down to 0, and let me tell you, the 3 sets of runes that I have done have basically kept me for the entire time. I should probably invest just a little bit and do a few more, but we'll wait and see. I'm really waiting for a quality of life update with runes, or more quality of life updates with runes, before I really commit anymore. So this is all minor talking points to just kind of excuse a little bit of the non-interest that I have in getting too deep into runes, and I think that'll probably speak pretty true with globalers. So, like, people ask, hey Umbra, what is the way that you've built your Astrius? Is this the good way to do it? Should we be potentially building something else? Should we be potentially doing something else? And yes. Good thing about runes in this game is that it does allow for multiple different builds for multiple different types of, opponents kind of thing. And I've done really well with just having my rune set for the last 4 or 5 months for Astrius. It really hasn't changed at all, and it really hasn't overly affected my win rate all that much. I would say just from fairly decent opponent in Arena, I've kept about a 80% win rate, and I think that's good enough. I'm not overly competitive. I've never tried to get incredibly high in Arena, so this is all just preface for the talks that I'm about to give. And it is important to remember this because depending on what your goals are in Wotv, your rune build may end up looking a bit different. I mean, mostly I focus mine on just DPS and brawliness. I mean, you could go for accuracy more. You could go for higher amounts of defense, or, you have just a ton of different choices that you can end up with. And for people who are worried, hey, I don't have maybe a full Glassy. I mean, Glassy's an older permanent character. She'll appear on select tickets, so it really isn't that much of a choice. Aerith isn't necessarily the most important, but she is one that just makes the team solid. Farm is just nice for chaining options. But I mean, you could, theoretically, run a cheaper build of this. I mean, if you're not like a whale anyway, then I don't think you're going to be that hyper competitive. But you could easily, Raychess could go in this party, maybe focus a little bit on magic. You could, Ramada isn't great, but for a cheaper version, if you don't have that many options, Titus is perfectly fine in this party, and Cryus could also be fit into the party, losing very little. So yeah, now let's get back to the thing that we're also supposed to be talking about, Astrius, and how to build him. I think I've used him in a couple of different teams. That's it. I want to say that I had a second built around here somewhere for a more recent event. I might have erased it, so we'll just kind of go with this one. But yeah, Astrius, there's been a few changes that I've made. It depends on really what enemies I'm fighting. On a minor level of, I mostly choose fire teams, earth teams, or light teams to go up against in Arena because they end up being relatively pretty easy. And my weapon of choice is this one. It's O's katana. O, who is the Thunder MR unit. And the reason that I chose this is because I was primarily focusing on the idea that there are just a lot of human enemies, and even if there aren't human enemies, Astrius can still do a ton of damage, but I really wanted to shore up damage against human opponents for Arena, because Astrius was going to be my main character that I was always focusing on Arena. And so far, it's worked out pretty. So building on this TMR, which I think I have to go in here. All right, I'll have to go in the actual equipment. I thought there was a way to check runes. Yes, I forgot. I've primarily gone with HP on the left side, really because, well, the max HP bonus is probably going to get one of the higher values. On here, you know, to me it made a lot of sense. Astrius has a lot of HP, getting an extra HP boost is pretty nice, and going with the offensive on the other side, again, I wanted to push as much damage as possible against my opponents. It also gives some defense penetration, and honestly, there is arguments to what you could put on either side. You could want to go maybe more defensive, making more of a tank-based character, but one of the reasons I don't like that, or magic protection, or too heavily focusing on either of those, is because there's a lot of defense penetration and magic or spirit penetration going around nowadays, with some characters even just maxing out, and it just doesn't really matter sometimes. So it felt better to kind of go, the best defense is a incredibly high offense, and that's what I went with. The HP build that you can see here is also beneficial because it works really nice. I mean, you can stack a lot of HP, and my Astrius in battle runs about 13,000 HP. And Astrius being able to survive certain hits just on sheer bulk HP is a worthwhile strategy for a couple of reasons. I mean, if Astrius is running his HP buff, still, his limit burst can almost act as an entire heal, because you get the first hit, you get the secondary hit, it's roughly potentially 9,000 damage or upwards of HP damage, and then you're restoring just a ton of HP to Astrius. So it felt like very much defense was not going to get me there, but an extra amount of HP, because there is only so much damage you can do in Arena most times. Like, you're not really doing, your opponents are doing HP damage, sure, but they're not doing like 10, 12,000 potentially worth of HP damage. At least not with the team of, you know, a protector based unit and whatnot. So that's why I went with HP. Astrius has a lot of survival tools just naturally in his kit with his HP buffs, and his capability of restoring HP off of that, and Guts also protects him from dying. It does end up being a little bit of a coin toss, because your runes can make or break a mirror match where it's just an Astrius versus an Astrius, and it depends on other things. So that's really too heady for me, and I don't think that it's really worth stressing too much about, because, you know, if it's a coin toss, it's a coin toss, right? Someone's going to win, someone's going to lose at the end of the day. Fine. But again, pushing offense is just the idea of really trying to do what Astrius does particularly well. He's very good at using his limit burst. If you get a full hit, plus the secondary hit from his limit burst most times, which even works off summon damage, you can really just auto-kill your opponents. And if your opponents are dead, most teams just don't have ways of coming back from it. Then, if, you know, as soon as the first character dies on one team, statistically, it is very unlikely that the team that loses its first character is going to make a comeback, you know, depending on AI. So that brings us into what I focused on for getting it, because people are usually, you would expect, hey, bells. Bells is what you want on every attacker, because mages have initial AP, which works really well and gets them through a lot of fights, and attackers just don't have that. Well, Astrius does have his own AP reduction in his kit, provided that he has Guts active, which he almost always certainly does, except for certain maps where you get too close to the enemy. That's the only time that you're really going to be specifically wanting to auto it. What I focused on for sub parts of the runes was specifically some more HP boost, some water ability attack up, and the big thing to me was AP generation. I wanted to have a character where he wouldn't need bells. That was the ultimate goal, and there is a new water vision card that does make a big difference in that as well. And yeah, like I said, I've had an 80% or higher success rate in not upper arena per se most times, but in just general arena, and it has worked well. Over time though, in terms of like the going through or higher attack and reaction block is something I still recommend if you're going to have any interest in light, but you may want to go for something more focus on accuracy if evasion is still particularly a problem. I don't know how much Esther is really going to push arena teams away from evasion or towards evasion. I think we're still kind of waiting on that to see the full results, because it takes a couple of weeks for metas to shift in this game, or at least dramatically shift kind of thing. Accuracy build is the only other thing that I would really consider, because if there are a lot of accuracy teams, you can prey on them particularly fairly well with, for example, where is it? Like, water does have interesting accuracy buffs from certain places and certain vision cards, like the Cryas vision card is at fully maxed, giving a pretty nice evasion buff, or evasion, sorry. Yeah, buff. No, that's a... But this is the new vision card. This is the one that comes shortly after Astrius, and this is probably just the Astrius card. I mean, it has some agility, has high attack, high HP. It's really nice. Why am I running it on Glassy? Just because of the way my general setup is right now. I haven't really overly looked at it too much recently. By recently, I mean in the last couple of months, because it's just been working. The AP generation on this card for an individual unit is 30%, which when added to my current TMR build has just made Astrius effectively like pretty AP independent of bells. The only reason that I would actually have bells on is like an older character that doesn't have those kind of generally high ways of building AP quickly. And that does free up the potential of putting on equipment in terms of armor, as well as an accessory too. Focusing here on giving more speed and another accuracy increase, while here just putting him particularly good against defensive. As I mentioned, I think in the previous video, you can definitely run something like this. This is a really good accessory for the mirror match, since it's HP, defense, spirit, a little bit of accuracy, and critical. It ends up being really nice. I've kind of just focused on my Astrius being really good about 3 particular things: killing the enemy, killing human enemies, and being fairly accurate but not overly committing to the build. Because the one weakness that water does still have, and this is definitely true with light matchups, is that light loses really hard because of the amount of damage you are able to push. If you hit any of those characters, they are just strictly dead kind of thing. Like Locke or Violet or Elena, they just die really easily. The problem is reactions, though. The best characters in the game capable of dealing with reactions naturally are really in the dark element as well as the earth element at the moment. Mashari combined, or Queen Mashari, as well as Sorry, I need to think. Leela are some of the more notable recent characters that have been really good and shutting down that kind of reaction style gameplay. And so that can make water versus light a little bit of a coin toss. Like you get unlucky kind of thing a bunch of times and you're just going to be unlucky consistently, then you're probably going to lose. And so you may want to focus a little more on reaction block. But Astrius does seem like he has a lot of potential in the future. Any like really good katana TMRs in the future will just boost him further. And any new pieces of equipment that are defensive that can potentially make him good against certain elements are also going to be really good. So I don't know if we can find... Now this is a pretty heavy light evasion team. I don't think we'll win this. I'm running like a lower tier character. This is a full 120. And I'm not super confident, but we'll run this just as a kind of example and show the build shortly after. Water and ice does seem pretty nice. And if there is a new version of Glassy next week, which is a ice-based character, then she will fit incredibly well into this team. This team also, I should say, even with the ice characters I've been running recently, has been very successful against fire, even with that kind of gap. So getting a look at the AI here, you can see there's already the HP buff. We have the HP regeneration. We do have the guts here. We have a bit of an accuracy boost. Now we're not getting really... It should be noted that we're also not getting anything off of this. That's unfortunately kind of the second HP buff. So this is going to be probably a little bit difficult, I think. But yeah, this is what I mean when it can just be a bit of a coin toss. I've had generally good amounts of... Yeah, this is just kind of a loss. We got just unfortunately bodied by this one. It happens. So yeah, I think I've talked enough about this. We'll show the build quickly here. A higher amount of accuracy is nice if you're going up against these kind of evadey douchebag teams. And yeah, sources of evasion can come from different places, such as the Odin card, potentially if you're running some ice elemental characters in with this. Again, here, really, this is where this card is right now. It's probably a little bit better over here, but things have gotten shifted around a little much. And I would even make a few changes to this team just to make it maybe a little bit better. But yeah, light evasion, for people who are, I have commented about accuracy builds with this TMR or with another TMR. Yeah, I would totally recommend it. It depends on what kind of teams you're fighting and what teams you really want to go up against in Arena. If you really are looking to hunt evasion teams, then Astrius will do plenty good because he still won't lose too much damage off of the TMR. Also having Human Killer on it, and there really isn't any protection against Human Killer at this point. There's potentially defense protection and whatnot. So yeah, it kind of is what it is for what it is. But hopefully this video gave you a little bit more insight into what Astrius builds can be, what they will be, and yeah, I don't think there's really much else to say other than best of luck to people who are pulling for him on Global. Of course, I wish everyone the best of luck trying to get him, except for Diggs. Diggs, calling you out on this one. You got too lucky on Esther, and you need to pay. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the music, too. See you next time.